After the woman in charge left, she left the room and closed the door. Make noise. Tanvu knew she was gone before he opened his eyes with peace of mind. The current scene is his despair. His face was ashen. Tanvu's father approached to ask, "Tu Vu, are you okay?" His father sat down next to him and sighed and said, "If you want to survive here, you must learn to accept everything." Tanvu's father immediately took a blanket to comfort him and said, "It's okay. I just need to get used to it." Hearing this, Tanvu was helpless, his face turned blue and looked very uncomfortable. No, Tanvu couldn't hold back anymore and burst into tears. "Dad, didn't you tell me what this place used to look like, what kind of place this was?" The father sadly replied to his son, "Present. This is what is happening like here." Father's previous identity and position no longer worked. The father breathed a sigh of relief and added, "The people who came here at first were all rich people or nobles. Everyone gets along quite well. According to researchers, this snowstorm will last 1 to 2 months and then end. Then everyone can go back and continue their original lives as normal. Therefore, Dad and everyone here always respect each other, so that one day we can get back what we have. In the future." The father added a little weakly, "But not long after, the weather has changed. Some people have discovered that the impact of the supernova explosion on the planet was greater than imagined. The world has officially entered an ice age, and it may not stop for 3 to 5 years, or it may last for 30 or 50 years, or even more." The father favors his son Tu Vu. Suddenly at this time, there was a group of people who suddenly awakened the power of the barrier. People often call them awakened with supernatural powers, and at this time the gap quickly widens. From then on, class began. Even though there's no one with supernatural powers here to manipulate it, outlaw behavior will come sooner or later. The father sighed again and added, "Everything that happened today is the first lesson. You will learn at the Taesun refugee area. If you want to live here, you must surrender unconditionally. You should be happy. This is the only way for me to escape my current classroom." Tanvu's father sympathetically patted his shoulder and encouraged him, "It won't be a problem even if you have to sell everything you have to live, as long as you can survive, there's nothing you can't sacrifice." The scene changes to a group of female students below the workplace. The students approached and asked Teacher Liang, "Ms. Liang, why do we still have to go to work? Why is life in the rescue area so difficult?" These students were somber as if they wanted to cry and said, "This is completely different from what we imagined before." Another female student said, "I've been cycling all day and now my whole body is tired and sore." A male student spoke up, "If I have to live like this every day from now on, then I'd rather die." Teacher Liang Lin consoled her, "This is the end of the world, it is extremely difficult for us to survive. Did you see people cycling around you today? None of them have a lower status than me before, and among them there are also many famous and wealthy people." Teacher Liang Lin told her students frankly, "A world where everyone enjoys happiness. It didn't exist in the first place." Teacher Liang added, "If you think positively, then at least now we can all survive and not have to worry about survival. Is that right?" Speaking of this, the students were dumbfounded, didn't know what to do anymore. A female student who did not serve was treated like that. She said, "We are all elites. Why do they treat us like that?" A male student behind him said, "We are so young. We are just children. Why must we suffer like this?" A female student ran up and grabbed Teacher Liang's hand and said, "Miss Liang, can you think of any way?" Teacher Liang said, I'm just a teacher. Here, my position is no different from yours. We have to accept it, guys." Suddenly, Tanvu returned from behind. He walked forward silently like a soulless person. The other female student spoke up. "No, Tanvu, you're back." The group of students asked Tanvu continuously, "How is your father these days? You can take care of us, so we don't have to work here?" Another female student said, "Even if we are allowed to work in the office, I don't hesitate to accept it either." Tanvu said, "Don't dream anymore. After arriving here, everyone will be assigned work by them. And you can only get on the generator here to work." No, Tanvu walked up to his teacher and said, "Miss Liang, I'm back." Ms. Liang immediately said, "It's good to come back. Where did you go just now?" Tanvu immediately hid the recent incident. If everyone finds out, he will no longer have any face. He says, "My dad and I went around the base. Now I have a general understanding of the situation at this Taesun base." No, Tanvu sat down next to Teacher Liang and said, "Miss Liang, we can only rely on you from now on." The students and Teacher Liang also listened attentively. Ms. Liang thought to herself, "So that's it. If my previous position didn't work, then my status as a person with special abilities in martial arts is definitely very important here." Teacher Liang patted Tanvu's shoulder and asked, "Do you know what the current situation is at Taesun base?" Student No Tanvu immediately said, "Taesun organization's current leader is Tran Hainian. There are quite a few of his subordinates who have awakened their abilities. This group of people quickly suppressed the base and restored a new order. As Tan Vu said, these people changed the order with their powerful abilities. Tan Vu then added, the base's interior is divided into 4 floors. Tran Hainian and his close subordinates lived on the first floor with the best conditions. Only the researchers and technicians he uses can stay in the second floor. Can enjoy living conditions no different from before the fall. This Tan Vu guy continued. The third floor is the powerful army group he gathered. Have perfect equipment and body organization. Among them, there are many super combat units with people awakening powerful abilities. No, Tan Vu added. And we are the residents living on the 4th floor. Accounting for the majority of this entire Tae-sun base, can only receive the least amount of resources and must work the hardest. Having said this, he immediately became angry because he remembered what had happened just now. He immediately added, but everyone should not think about protesting. A group of 3rd floor guards separates us from the 2nd and 3rd floors. We alone cannot fight those monsters. Speaking of this, the classmates were all confused and scared. A pretty girl said, say so, then we can only work hard here for the next life. One male student exclaimed, I don't want to. It's better than me dying. Tan Vu held this pain in his heart and added, why do you think they agreed to accept so many people into their base? The reason is to supplement the labor source that was previously consumed. No, Tan Vu sadly said. Many people, like you, cannot accept such reality and choose to commit suicide. They don't care about your lives. At best, they can just take other lucky survivors to replace them. In general, our lives can be thrown away at any time. An angry male student approached Tan Vu and shouted, it's all your fault for telling us to come here. If you hadn't revealed your location, how could we have come to this strange place? No, Tan Vu said casually, if you stay at Tien Tan Academy, won't you die? Seeing Tan Vu say that, he remained silent and did not say anything else. No, Tan Vu pushed this male student back and said, Miss Liang, if we want to change our current state, we can only rely on you. You're not like us. In this Tae-sun base, people with special abilities have special privileges. Please help us. The students said that, making Teacher Liang bewildered. No, Tan Vu said that, the other students immediately came to beg Teacher Liang. Ms. Liang, you have to help us, taking care of students is the teacher's responsibility. A male student said, we can't do manual work, can you talk to the base to help us, is it okay for us to do light work? Teacher Liang, after thinking for a while, replied to her students, I will keep you safe. As for manual work, she still had to observe more. Hearing that, the students shouted, don't Miss Liang, my hand is already injured. This is really not something people should do. Teacher Liang doesn't care about what these students say anymore. Teacher Liang lay down on the bed to rest and said, it's not early anymore. Everyone go home and rest, still have to work tomorrow. To avoid having no spirit at that time. The students also left helplessly. A student said one thing before leaving, that's okay. Don't forget to talk to those people until then, Ms. Liang. Let us change positions at work. Tomorrow. A very loud sound echoed throughout the entire 4th floor of the base. Everyone here quickly left their positions. Moved to the 4th floor center area where the announcement was made. A moment later, everyone here lined up and approached in order. The person in charge picked up the loudspeaker and announced, good morning. Today is our 48th day of survival. Let us thank Mr. Tran Hainian for leading us to a happy life until now. After everyone on the 4th floor of the base arrived at the central area, the people on the 4th floor happily raised their hands in unison and shouted, long live Tran Hainian. Seeing everyone shouting, long live Tran Hainian, Ms. Liang and her students were all bewildered and confused. The female in charge held a megaphone in her hand and said happily, yesterday our team rescued another group of survivors. From now on we are all one family. The female in charge raised her hand and pointed in Teacher Liang's direction and said, now, new family members, please introduce yourselves. Everyone around continuously applauded. As for Ms. Liang and the students, they have not yet been able to reformulate. Teacher Liang thought to herself. That's the crowd effect. Taking advantage of people in situations to brainwash and manage subordinates. Teacher Liang walked up, the students followed behind her in worry. Even though we clearly know it's hypnosis and suggestion, if you stay here for too long, you won't be able to escape. I have encountered this kind of thing many times before. Teacher Liang approached the woman in charge of giving birth. She picked up the speaker to speak. The person in charge was standing next to applaud. A short time passed. After the introduction of Teacher Liang and the students passed, the beautiful woman in charge of taking back the speaker said, next is our pre-work exchange activity. Who is the host today? Everyone on the 4th floor ate well, everyone laughed and talked happily to each other. Teacher Liang looked around and made a judgment. Like this is good. If you can't resist, then obediently endure. At least I can continue living. Teacher Liang looked at her students laughing and chatting happily during the meal and thought, if I can continue to live like this, it will still be much better than outside. A moment later, a beautiful woman came, accompanied by 2 security guards. The female in charge saw that. She approached and asked, Secretary Ji, why did you have to come all the way here? Just tell me if there's anything, I'll help you handle it. The female secretary picked up the megaphone and said, in the group of survivors rescued yesterday, is anyone named Liang here? Teacher Liang stood up and responded, I am the salaryman. The students behind immediately said, Miss Liang, don't forget us. Ms. Liang walked towards Secretary Ji in the surprise of everyone here. Miss Liang and Secretary Ji shook hands. Secretary Ji boldly said first, Hello Ms. Liang Browse. I am Mr. Bear. My name is Ji Ro. Our superior would like to see you for a moment. Everyone was eating, drinking and chatting happily when suddenly, one person said, Mr. Tran wants to meet this new person? Another said, doesn't this mean she's about to ascend to the clouds? The students happily exclaimed and called out the name of the teacher behind them, Miss Liang. With just one glance from Secretary Ji, everyone was eating, drinking, chatting happily, and suddenly became extremely quiet. Everyone was so scared that they were sweating. The secretary happily talked to Ms. Liang again. The secretary raised her hand and invited Teacher Liang to follow her. Right after that, Teacher Liang followed Secretary Ji Ro somewhere. After a while, they finally arrived. Secretary Ji Ro brought Teacher Liang into the room and said, the person you were looking for has already arrived. Tran Hainian happily ran to shake hands with Teacher Liang. He said with a fake smile, I've heard a lot about you, try your best. For a very long time, you have led a group of students to live very well until now. You are truly a great teacher. Tran Hainian took Teacher Liang to a chair to talk. He added, sit down, I'll make it short, I have future plans for you. After listening, Teacher Liang was a little surprised and confused.